Hey you guys, welcome back. It's Amy Gretchen. In this Project Life Process video, I'm going to be working on week 2 from 2008. So the supplies that I'm going to be using this time is Ali Edwards Story Kit. This is her Change Story Kit, as you can see right here, indicated in the stamp set. And then this is the Story Kit that I'll be looking through the supplies. And you can see that I already have my photos in place. I think this is where they'll end up be, but maybe they'll move around a bit. And then there's a couple here that I had just recently printed out, realized I didn't have any 3x4s. You can see this time that I have a border around the 4x6s, but not the 3x4s. So I do have a video that shows how I do that. If you are interested in learning, I'll have it linked below. And let's just go ahead and get started. I have an idea of some stories that I want to tell, but I have, 5 spots available for some journaling and some other cards. So let's just go and get started. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is go through the kit. So I've seen some photos, but I haven't previously looked through the kit. So I always enjoy this process of being able to open up the product and really get your hands on them. In her kit, she's got cards, 3x4 and 4x6s. There's always several types of embellishments, stickers. This one had puffy stickers, which I thought was a really fun addition, that it was puffy stickers instead of maybe like chipboards, although there was some chipboard included as well. And then as I was going through the cards, I really just wanted to pick out the ones that I thought that I would use. And when I'm doing this, I'm thinking about the journaling that I want to write and which cards are going to fit with that journaling. Now, I'm always a believer that you can grab any kit and you could make it work for any week. And I still believe that is true, even with something like change. Because I believe there's always something that's going on in your life that's changing, whether it be, for instance, for me, I'm trying to not eat sugar so much. So in January, I haven't been eating sugar. So that's one of the stories that I'm telling here. That is a change that I am trying to make in my life. There's other sorts of changes. We are actually transitioning a little bit. Not a little bit. We are transitioning work-wise with my husband. So that's a big change that's kind of going on in our life right now. There's other changes that could maybe be going on with your kids or your pets, or there's just a lot of things you could probably look to. And I really do believe that you could grab any one of these kits, any one of these themes, and tell stories from the week. So I always love being able to look at the cards and determine, what would fit for the week. So I grabbed over the pad that came in the kit. This one says today's goals, and it's actually, the paper is pretty thin. It's type paper thin. They've had pads before that are a little bit thicker, but this one is quite thin. And I thought that it would make a great addition on top of maybe this one card that says you can do this. So I really like that sentiment for the story that I wanted to tell, but you can see there's really no space for a story. So I thought, if I cut out a piece of paper, then I'd be able to write my story and I could just kind of paper clip it on. Now that pad, today's stories, when I cut it down, there just wasn't enough room for the story that I wanted to tell. So I set that aside and I ended up cutting out another piece of paper. And now you can see that instead of just, going ahead and writing the story right on the piece of paper, I wanted to add some stamps to it. So the stamp that I decided to choose says, "This change is just hard." And I really loved it because of the story I was going to tell. And because then at the bottom, the card says, "You can do this." So this story is all about me eating sugar. So I haven't had sugar since January 2nd. And this is more like candy and desserts. I mean, I have had some stuff that has had sugar in it per se, but it's actually been really difficult for me this time around because I've done it before and I don't feel like it's been as hard, but I just feel like I really needed to kind of cleanse my body and detox. And then because I was feeling very addicted, like I had to have it after every meal. So my goal is then hopefully at the end of these 30 days that maybe that I would have sugar when I wanted it instead of feeling like I had to have it. So anyway, hopefully that made sense. But that's what that journaling was about. So I loved that the stamp said, this change is hard. And then at the bottom it says, you can do this, because that's what I'm feeling like. Is I know I can do this. I've done it before, but I really want this to be more of a lasting change. And this has been hard. So I'm going to write some more journaling. Now you can see this card has the lines in place, which I actually really like that. I found that I like my handwriting a lot more when I have lines that I can use. But I wanted to, again, instead of just starting right with the journaling, I wanted to add a stamp, something that would kind of like be a jumping off point. So I grabbed the one that said loving this, because that's always a great sentiment that could go along with really any journaling, and just wrote about a weekend activity that I went on. It was an overnighter with some girls. And then I think I have another journaling card, but one other journaling, this one was all about my husband's change in job. So one thing that I wanted to mention with this journaling is I started writing, and as I got to the bottom, I realized I haven't said all the things that I want to say, and I'm not finished. And so instead of freaking out and feeling like I had to start over or redo it, and I totally could because I have the digital cards, or I could have just cut off the top, I decided just to turn it over and write more journaling on the back. To me, totally not a big deal. That's something I can pull the card out in the future and read the entire journaling if I want. So just keeping in mind that that is an option if you maybe are not 100% done with your journaling, but you just don't want to start over with the card, or you don't have another card to use and you don't want to have to worry about it. So one of the things that I didn't do, because I've done that before, is I usually will draw like an arrow that indicates that I'm not finished. So I didn't do that this time, and I noticed that when I was taking pictures. So I need to go back and just write in an arrow so it indicates that I have a little bit more journaling on the back. Although it'll be obvious when you're reading it and you realize I stop short and I don't finish the sentence. All right, so you can see that the majority of my journaling is done. I've got one more card that I want to do, the one to the far left, but I will get to that in just a minute. And I am moving on to look at my embellishments and kind of how I want to use them in this spread. So one of the things that I was thinking of specifically, that journaling card, the one where I put the circle that says just breathe on it, potentially there was two or three stories that I wanted to tell, and I wasn't entirely sure which one I wanted to tell there. So you'll see that I end up moving embellishments around, just because that just breathe would go with a story. And then I think one of the puffy stickers I was thinking of using says take action. So that would go along with another story. So I was kind of deciding what I wanted to do as I'm working through these embellishments and moving them around. I really love that. I love the ability to take the embellishments and repeat them throughout the spread. That's one of my favorite things to do because it really creates a sense of balance. I really like actually how those circle chipboards are working together, but you'll see in the end, I don't end up using all three. And I'm feeling a little bit like I'm regretting that now. I do love the way this turned out, but I don't know. I just love how big and bold they are. But in the end, I decide to tell another story that the just breathe doesn't go with as well. All right, so you can see that I'm moving on to my title card, and I'm looking at, so you can see in the stamp set that it's got this label stamp. So I'm thinking, I was trying to decide if I stamped the dates on top of each other, if they would fit inside, and they actually did. But I'm thinking also of having each date be on its own label. So you see that's what I'm making here, is I'm stamping them out, and I do three. The first one doesn't stamp as well, so I end up doing two more. And wiping my hands off because I seriously am the worst stamper. I feel like I get it all over my fingers and then I end up smudging it onto cards. And anyway, it's always a big mess. So I always have to wipe my fingers off. But you can see that I'm just adding the dates and then I'm going to cut these out. So it's actually quite easy to do. The corners do kind of round in. You can see the best way to do that is to move your paper while you're cutting instead of the scissors. Just move your paper around the scissors and then it actually cuts out really well. All right, so now that they're cut out, you can see that I'm arranging it onto the card and trying to figure out how I want it to look. Now I moved out the other 4x6 title card that I had in place. That was one of those cards that came in one of Allie Edwards' kit. I think it was the Lost and Found, actually, the kit. And I pulled out one of the 4x6 cards that came in the change kit. I really love this pattern, the plus signs. I think they had this one also in December Daily, but the colors were a little bit different. So I loved being able to see it here again. I wasn't really loving it on this spread, and I think what it was is maybe it was the labels and the dates and the way that they work together that I wasn't really loving. So I decided to look for something else. So I pulled over that card again that was from the Lost and Found. And as I was looking at it, I wasn't really loving that either. So I was thinking about a way that maybe I could replace it. You know, you saw me pull over the 4x6 cards and kind of look through those again. I think it was the sentiment there that I thought, you know, it doesn't necessarily go 100% with this week like maybe something else would. So you can see that I switched out one of those circle chipboards as well. I realized that sentiment for the circle chipboard would actually go really well with this other layout that I was working on. So I decided to move it out, kind of switch it out for something else. Then you can see that this card that says love life and it will love you right back. I loved that. I thought that that would go really well for this week and some of the stories that I told and things that were going on. So what I decided to do, because I didn't like having both of those labels, I just thought that it was a little much. It just felt like too much on the card for some reason. And so I decided to just take the extra label that I had and stamp both of the dates just right on top of each other. And I really liked that. I liked having that at the bottom and then putting that gold star on the top there. I thought that that worked out really well. And it was, you can see it was one of those things that I was kind of going back and forth with the other cards. And like, once I figured it out, I was like, yep, that's it. And that's kind of how I make decisions. I've talked to you guys about this before, how I do it based on feel, but it's so interesting when you're working so hard for something and you do something else and you go, oh my gosh, that's it. You know, it just feels right. So that's kind of how I came to that conclusion there. All right, so you can see that I'm at that place that I am moving things around and trying to make some final decisions because I'm just about done with this spread. So that journaling card, I still have not yet decided on exactly what I want to do. And I think one of the problems for me was I really wanted to use that chipboard circle at the bottom, that pink one. It says, we cannot become what we want by remaining what we are. And I love that quote. And I thought it went really well with that photo of my daughter and her quintet because they're working so hard on these competitions. And you do change a lot through that experience and through the hard work that you put into it. So I really loved that there. And so I was thinking about, you know, maybe that should be on its own journaling card so I can write a story about that. But in the end, I decided to actually leave it there, even though I have no other circle chipboards on the spread. I end up taking them off because the puffy stickers, you can see that I ended up using the puffy stickers a lot more. The one that says take action, I end up using that because of the story that I want to tell on that journaling card went better than the Just Breathe. So I kept wanting to use the Just Breathe just so I'd have another circle chipboard on the spread, but I don't end up doing it. I just, decide it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. And so I let go of it and I decided to add this circle chipboard. You can see that I'm going back and forth because I really, you can see like if I stopped and I paused it right here, you can see how much better it looks. Really good having that circle chipboard there. Not that the take action doesn't look well, but it draws your eye. It's another pop of black and it's another circle there. So I kind of miss a little bit not having it, but not everything needs to be designed to perfection. Not everything needs to be like something that's going to go in a magazine, and it's going to be okay. And it's really the stories that we want to fuel these spreads, or at least that is my motivation. I love working with the product and I definitely want it to look good and look cohesive and look balanced. but it's really the stories and the photos that I want to shine. It's really the life that we lived that I really want to bring to life. So whether or not I'm adding a circle chipboard or I'm adding a puffy sticker, it doesn't have to be that big of a deal. So I'm just kind of putting that out there for you guys to remember that it doesn't all need to be perfect. This project is all about celebrating life, and life is anything but perfect. All right, so that is just my 2 cents on that. Did not mean to jump on my soapbox, but just something for you guys to think about. So one of the things that I missed mentioning when I was busy chatting is that photo in the bottom corner, the one that I'm sticking into the pocket. I wanted to add some journaling onto that just to give that photo a little bit more context. And I grabbed a white pen and I wrote it in white pen, and it didn't really show up. So then I tried writing in black right over the top of it, and it just did not look right. And so I went ahead and I typed it out in my computer and printed that photo out again. Unfortunately, I ended up printing it out like it wasn't centered. So there again, we could have that discussion about perfection versus imperfection and whether or not to reprint it. Of course, I decided to celebrate the imperfection and not worry about it and just let it go as is. Perhaps this is the theme for this spread this time. All right, so I am just finishing off this spread by doing that last bit of journaling, and then you'll see that I'm going to go ahead and finish stapling off the puffy stickers right onto the photos just so they are all the same, and I am completely done with this spread. One more thing that I wanted to share with you guys that is during this week that I don't always get a chance to share with you. This was the week of my 12 of 12 project. And so I went ahead and I am showing you, this is what my collage looks like when it is finished, and I have it printed out. It's an 8x10. I'm going to go ahead and slip this into an 8x10 page protector. I actually don't have any on hand right now. I need to purchase some more. I get them from the Becky Higgins website, and then I'll just stick it right into my project life. Now on the back of this, I will have the journaling that goes along with each photo, but I haven't printed that out yet. But I did just want to go ahead and show you that that is something that I will be adding on to this week. Anyway, you guys, that is it for week 2. Hopefully you guys will get the chance to be able to work with the Change Story Kit. It is a great one. Really love the products in this, and I was able to use it on multiple projects that you will see coming up. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below. All right, you guys, we will catch you in the next one. Bye.